Go back to your country, get out of my country. These racist slurs were used by Adam Puritan before he shot dead an unarmed Indian man, Srinivas Kuchibolta, who was having a drink at a bar. Reason Adam Puritan killed Srinivas? Because he thought Srinivas was from Middle Eastern descent. FBI is investigating this incident as a possible hate crime. Hate crime is today's talking point in left, right, and in the middle. I'm Sanjeev Tanna. Welcome to ST World Affairs. So what is hate crime? In USA, FBI has defined a hate crime as a criminal offense against a person or property motivated in a whole or in part by an offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. According to FBI, in year 2015, hate crime against Muslim Americans increased by 67%. Why do people commit hate crimes despite of having severe penalties such as longer prison sentences? People commit hate crimes for many reasons. Main reason, when people have a crisis, they often exhibit tendency to protect their own and find someone to blame for their own problems. In another word, they are ignorant. They are ignorant about people who look, behave, and express views different from themselves. Number two, often people who commit hate crimes have a low self-esteem. They need to be able to look down on others in order to compensate for their own low self-esteem. Number three, they have been victimized or brutalized and therefore find pleasures in brutalizing others. According to Dr. Edward Dunbar, UCLA psychologist, those who commit hate crimes are not only mentally ill in the traditional sense, but hate crimes perpetrators have a high level of aggression and antisocial behavior. Perpetrators are not psychotic, but they are very disturbed, problematic members of our community. In September 11, 2001, 11 militants tied up with the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airlines and carried out suicide attack against target in the United States. Absolutely, this was terrorist attack, but my interpretation, this was also a hate crime against Americans committed by terrorists who are motivated by hatred of freedom. 9/11 perpetrators committed bias crimes and planned their attacks. However, aftermath of 9/11 attack is also not pretty. After September 11, hate crimes against Muslims spiked. But FBI, the number of anti-Muslim hate crime incidents jumped in 2001 from 28 to 481 incidents. And number dropped in the following years, but has never returned to the levels reported before the 9/11 attack. Let's review FBI's 2015 data on various forms of hate crimes. Racial and ethnicity bias. Among single bias hate crime incidents in 2015, there were 4,216 victims of race and ethnicity motivated hate crimes. So 52.2% were victims of crimes motivated by offenders' anti-black or African American bias. 18.7% were victims of anti-white bias. 9.3% were victims of anti-Hispanic or Latinos bias. Sexual orientation bias. Of the 1,263 victims targeted due to sexual orientation bias, 62% were victims of crimes motivated by their offenders' anti-gay male bias. 19.6% were victims of anti-lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender mixed groups bias. And 13.5% were victims of anti-lesbian bias. Religious bias. Of the 1,402 victims of anti-religion hate crimes, 52.1% were victims of crimes motivated by their offenders' anti-Jewish bias. And then 21.9% were victims of anti-Islamic Muslim bias. So what's the take-home message here? Single bias hate crime incidents showed that 59.2% of the victims were targeted because of the offender's bias against race and ethnicity. 19.7% were victimized because of bias against religion, and 17.7% were targeted because of the bias against sexual orientation. Okay, enough of this number game. Here is the bottom line. Approximately 80% of the hate crime happens because of the offender's biased views against race, ethnicity, and religion. So now that you understand definition of hate crimes, let's review some of the stories. On February 22, 2017, an Indian engineer, Srinivas Kuchibota, became hate crime victims after 51 years old US Navy veteran at a bar yelled at him, "Get out of my country." His name was Adam Puritan. Adam Puritan thought that Srinivas was and his friends are from Middle Eastern country. One can derive from Puritan action as hate crime against Middle Eastern country. The second incident, at an Indian origin at his driveway in Kent, Washington district, was shot by a masked gunman who shouted at him, "Go back to your country." The perpetrator is still at large. In January 2017, a special needs white man was filmed being physically and verbally abused by black individuals. Criminals were Jordan Hill, Tesfaye Cooper, Brittany Covington, and Tanisha Covington. They were charged with hate crimes along with all other charges. In India, caste-related hate crimes happens at various levels. Dalits and indigenous people, also known as scheduled tribes, continue to face discrimination and hate crimes often committed by the upper caste. So far, we have talked about hate crimes problems. So how do you eliminate or reduce the hate crimes? Two possible mitigations or answers: awareness and education on human values. Law enforcement, schools, students, and neighborhood communities should be educated on religion, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Don't just focus on your own views and religion. Expose yourself to others. Develop values, national values, American values, Asian values, family values, whatever you want to call. Everyone has right to speech and practice freedom of religions. With this final thought, thank you and see you next time.